And it's messed up again for the music. I don't have to figure out why it does that. But welcome to Quoth the Raven, Lewis Bright Raven, for Tuesday, January 19th, 2021. Usually we run this on Mondays, but my father had to have his hand put in the cast at the hospital yesterday because he fell a couple of weeks ago, actually, and broke his hand and was too stubborn to go to the hospital until yesterday to get it done. That's my dad for you. Anyway, hope that your week started off a little bit better than mine has in that regard. Let's go ahead and get straight to it and get into our reviews for the week. We're going to start with Blood Force Trauma number 1 and 2, recommended for ages 16 and up, from Dead Gremlin Comics. Writers are Jake Smith and Hiram Corbett. Artist is Jake Smith. The color is by Jake Smith with flats by Michelangelo Arbone and Rob Cloma. The genre is dystopian science fiction. The ISBN number for the first issue only is the one that they had an ISBN number on was 978-1-7923-3543-0. And what it's about is Blood Force Trauma is the name of Atomic City's most popular fighter TV show. The most savage warriors from all known dimensions come to battle to the death. Enter Zap Daniels, an avid video gamer and computer hacker who is a fan of Blood Force Trauma until he is unwillingly drafted onto the show as a competitor. With the help of a couple of ex-BFT champions, Zap now has to learn to train his body and new abilities in order to survive. My thoughts on this series is that it's a great comic series so far. Smith's style is clean, concise, and visually unique. It has a very interesting vibe of 80s video game cartooning and kind of a Mad or Cracked magazine type of influence. The color is just amazing, and it really pops. It's the best colored comic of 2020. These books came out in 2020 initially, by far. I already did review number 1 last year, but I thought I'd show them again. It's been a while. If Jake Smith can keep it going, I'd easily nominate the book for an Eisner just on the color work, if nothing else. This was supposed to come out through a different publisher, through Diamond, and then that was supposed to come out in December, and unfortunately, for whatever reason, that fell through, and he's back to reestablishing it on the crowdfunding scene. Last I knew, I'm still trying to find out from Jake what the actual status is. The only thing I'm sad about is limited use of Thrash Skull Kicker. That's the guy with the glowing green skull and the glowing green blade on the left there. He's got a limited use of the character in the story, and that kind of disappoints me. It'll probably be a while before it's explained exactly why Zap was entered into the competition. So here's some of the artwork from the interior from issue number 1. You can see very bright neon glow type coloring here. It stands out really well. This is Skull Kicker and oh geez, I gotta think of the shark guy's name right now, but they're fighting to the death in the battle arena in the first issue here. And as you can see, Skull wins. Now, in issue, we're going to jump to issue 2. This is Lightning Legs Jones fighting some guys in the back stage area or the back outside the arena some guys that want to beat up Zap because he just won the championship, and they're like, "Oh, if we can beat him up, we'll get our names for ourselves." And Jones is basically defending him. And takes out the enemies pretty badly. And Jones says, "Yeah, well, basically, we got to go find you a place to, hide out so people aren't coming after you all the time." And Zap takes him back to his place where he meets his sister and everything like that. And they're going to start training him so that he can actually fight and defend himself in the ring, starting in the third issue when it comes out. I really do like Smith's art. It's a little bit graphic. That's why I say just 16 and up. Our next book is Future State Green Lantern #1, $5.99 from DC Comics. Publisher is DC Comics. The writers are Jeffrey Thorne, Ryan Cady, and Ernie Altbacker. The artists are Tom Rainey, Sam Basari, and Clayton Henry. The colorist Mike Atiyeh. Hi-Fi Studios and Marcelo Maiolo. The cover is by Clayton Henry and Marcelo Maiolo. And what this is about is, this is an anthology book of 3 different stories by 3 different creative teams. This appears to be the new format for this series. The first story is called Last Lanterns by Thorne, Rainey, and Atiyeh. After the events of DC Death Metal, the Green Lantern Corps is apparently no more, with their own power battery either drained or completely destroyed. John Stewart, Salak, Gnort, Kilowog, and other Green Lanterns are trying to protect the planet Codex de Shiar from the Khund Vanguard. Now, with me not having read the Green Lantern series in quite a while time, not following DC Death Metal, I have to admit I was a little bit lost in the course of events, but the story is still pretty straightforward, enough that you can follow it without having read the other stuff. I would like to know how Gnort turned into a muscle-bound werewolf-type character. That's not how he's usually been depicted in the past, but it really doesn't matter. They're going to do what they're going to do. Thorne's giving us an interesting look at who the characters would be without their rings. I see a lot of complaints by other reviewers about Tom Rainey's art on this chapter, and I say they're dead wrong. The style suits the story just right. Maybe the colors by Atiyeh are a bit darker than they could have been, but that's more a matter of personal taste than a legitimate flaw in the work, in my opinion. I would say that if Carl Potts can't get Chuck Dixon and Larry Stroman to work together on Alien Legion again due to the whole politicalization of the industry in recent year and the whole Comicsgate thing, that I would suggest hiring Thorne and Rainey for it, because this really felt like an Alien Legion style story, and I'm looking forward to the next installment. The second story is called The Taking of Sector 0123 by Ryan Cady, Sam Basiri, and Hi-Fi Studios for the color. And it has Sinestro Corps raiding a Green Lantern installation that they assume has been abandoned to convert for their own use. Only Jessica Cruz, depowered like the rest of the GLs, is still on board and has been fixing up the station as best as she can, and she tries to repel them from the station. The only problem is Cruz suffers from severe anxiety and disorder, which many critics over the years have rightly suggested that this was a problem and should have prevented her from ever becoming a Green Lantern. Well, that's here or there, but it's not an invalid argument. There are people who made a good argument for that. But with this story, I would say that addresses the issue, and it makes sense in context. I don't know if I like Katie's idea, but in terms of the context of who the character is and what's going on in the story, it makes sense. I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. But anyway, the series art is very nice. I won't show that in a little bit, but his backgrounds are a little bit lean on detail, in my opinion, and could stand to improve. And lastly, the final story is a Guy Gardner story where he was sent off alone on a planet to end a dispute between warring factions when his ring dies. And so, without powers, apparently he spends 25 years being on the planet, and he's convinced the races on the planet to cease their hostilities and build a world together. And everything's running smoothly until the Khazarian pin in the butt. Lobo shows up. Now, the only thing I didn't care about this was the whole 25 years part. I didn't understand why they did it for 25 years in conjunction with the other two stories. It was a little bit confusing to me, but okay. I guess it would take that long, maybe. I don't know. Clayton Henry is all right for this, but I've seen better artwork from him. Overall, it's a very respectable first issue, and I give it 3.5 stars. Recommended for ages 15 and up. Let's take a look at some of that artwork. This is the Tom Rainey art with Mike Attier. Nice detail, colorings, pretty sharp. Again, some people don't like it. They don't think, since the characters don't have their rings, they're wearing different outfits. Maybe they're not as recognizable as somebody who's not familiar with the characters. I don't know. But I think Rain does a nice job with them overall. I think Ate is doing a decent job on the coloring. This is Gnort. He's just much bigger and more muscular than I'm used to seeing him in this. Like I said, it looks more like a werewolf with a little bit white fur going on. Mighty Geek Studio says the Future State books really, really what? Mighty Geek, you need to clarify. This is the only Future State book I've actually bought. It was the only one I was interested in, to be honest. So, oh well. This is the Sam Basiri artwork with Hi-Fi Studios doing the artwork. She's in a dark hallway, or a ventilation shaft where she gets this Sinestro core member tied up, and she's hiding inside the ventilator shaft. And yeah, okay. Yeah, overall, it's not too bad. This really doesn't show the issue I had with some of the lack of the background detail. There's other pages that are actually more demonstrative of some of the issues. But like I said, it's not like it's a major deal. It's a short piece. It doesn't ruin the comic. The detail in some of the background isn't there. I just wish it had been more consistent. And this is the artwork by Clayton Henry with Marcelo Maiolo sample work. And again, it's okay. The color palette's a little bit bland in a way, with the yellow brownish sky and a yellow brownish everything kind of. I think it kind of weakens the line art a little bit. But overall, it's still professional grade stuff. Nothing really to complain about. Our next book is Ghost Girl, Mummy Girl #1. This is cover A. And the publisher is Maneki Neko Books. That's the people who do Gladstone School for World Conquerors, and these are one-shot stories featuring each of the characters. Now, this is the reason you see Ghost Girl's cover upside down is it's kind of a flip book. It's a flip book, and you go halfway through the book, you turn it up around and read the other side of the book. Now, the Mummy Girl side, which is the right side on this particular cover, the cover is by Jill Thompson. And the writer of the story is Justin Johnson. The artist is the regular Gladstone's artist, Armand Villevert Jr., with color by Hector Oshiro and letters by Pat Purcell. The Ghost Girl cover that you're seeing upside down is by Meredith McLaren. The genre is supervillain adventure, and what it's about is Mummy Girl is left at home as her parents go out. A tomb raider breaks into their home and breaks an artifact that houses the Egyptian demon Sutek, and the duo have to team up to stop it. The duo meaning Mummy Girl and Tomb Raider guy. It's a cute story. It's recommended for ages 13 and up. And when I give the whole overall thing a 4.5. And this is the other cover B, and the cover, and this side of the story with the Ghost Girl. There's two different versions. The writer is Eric Martinez, with Armand and Hacto as the artist, and Pat doing the lettering. And the cover that you see with Ghost Girl here with the dragon in the purple background, and her with the kind of sword arm thing going there, is by Rob Malmertz. And then the Mummy Girl that's upside down is by Hector Oshiro. And what the story about is Ghost Girl spends the summer before starting classes at Gladstone School for World Conquerors, visiting her dad's ancestral village, only to discover it's being attacked by a Jeo Seong Saha. I hope I pronounced that right. It's a demon that consumes other spirits, and she must defeat it to save her family's ancestral spirits. And in so doing, she earns new abilities as an envoy to the Council of the Elder Spirits. I like the Ghost Girl story a little bit more than the Mummy Girl story, because the Mummy Girl story is a little bit more predictable and straightforward. But overall, both stories are very well done. And this is some of the interior art for the Ghost Girl part of the story by Armand Villevert and Acto Oshiro. This is after she's been connected to the other Council of the Elder Spirits, and they're sharing their abilities with her, and she goes and attacks the Jeo Seong Saha and his minions. Here's more of that confrontation as she's taking out the minions. And this is some of the artwork for the Mummy Girl story, which is also by Armand Villevert Jr. and Acto Oshiro. Alexander Babbitt says Doomsday Clock is awful. I haven't read it. DC Rebirth, again, I'm really not that much of that. And Three Jokers is crap. Okay, well, that's fine. You're about like me, not a big DC person, Alexander. That's fine. I've really kind of, the last time I was really reading DC on a regular basis was back when Paul Dini was doing Zatanna. This is the last time I read a regular ongoing stuff. Do not read Doomsday Clock. Well, I hadn't planned on it. But anyway, let's see. A little bit more artwork here of Armand for the Mummy Girl side of the storyline. This is where the Tomb Raider guy is just like tossing all these artifacts, and she's trying to catch him before they break. And then she gets him and hits him in the face, and of course he drops the vase that carries the spirit of the Egyptian demon. Our next book is Homesick Pilots, number 1. Hold on a second. Hold on a second, folks. That's not right. That's not our next book yet. I know why it did that, but it's not the one we should be doing next. The one we should be doing next is Martian Jones and the Skull Brothers, which is the other flip book for the Gladstone School for World Conquerors. Anyway, this is cover A, and my publisher again is Making Echo Books. This is the Skull Brothers side written by Eric Martinez, with artist Marcelo Di Chiara and colors by Carlos Carrasco, letters by Pat Purcell. The cover on the right, with the two Skull Brothers on their motorcycles, is Koi Fam. And the Martian Jones upside down cover thing for the flip book is by Simone D'Armini. The genre is supervillain adventure, and what it's about: the Skull Brothers seek revenge against the Lady Jiangxi, a powerful witch who had killed their father, as their entry video presentation to get into Gladstone School for World Conquerors. It's a great story. The Chiara's art is exceptional. It's got a nice semi-origin story for the characters, which is different than the rest of the other stories, which are more funny one-off adventure stories. And then the cover B side, the writer is Eric Taggart from Martian Jones, with art by Armand Villavert and Hector Oshiro, with Pat Purcell letters. The cover for Martian Jones on this version of the book is by Thomas Perkins, with the Skull Brothers side art cover by Ben Templesmith. And the Martian Jones story is a story that actually takes place while they're at Gladstone School, and he accidentally shoots himself with his ray gun and draws other dimensional versions of himself to this plane and has to defeat them and send them back to where they came from. And he has to also finish a school project, which is due right now. Is an alien criminal genius's job ever done? Again, rated for 13 and up, 4.5 stars. And this is Armand's art. They're in the class, and he's not really paying attention, but he gives the correct answers always. And so he says, well, since everybody knows what they're doing, your projects are due tomorrow. And of course, everybody else is like not ready. So they all leave to go do their projects. And so there you go with that. And here's his project. He's got these two little robot sidekicks that he's going to present. Unfortunately, when he shoots himself, he has to use those to help him defeat the other versions of himself, and they get wrecked. And so when he gets wrecked, he doesn't have anything to turn in for his project, and he gets a failing grade. And this is the Skull Brothers artwork by Di Chiara. Very nice stuff. It's a very Akira-ish vibe going on with the motorcycles. And they're blowing up all these minions to get to the fortress of Lady Jiangxi, or Jiangxi. Just nice artwork overall. Our next book is Ninja Nuns One Shot. This is the Kickstarter edition. Scout Comics has also released an edition that you can get from your retailer, but this is the Kickstarter that I got that was limited to 250 copies. As you can see, I got number 55 at 250. The writers are Chaz Pangburn, Bob France, and Kevin Cuff. Bob and Kevin are the co-creators. of the characters. The artists are Tony Gregory, Dan Franco, John Bergen, and Angela Sprecher, or Sprecher, I don't know how she pronounces it. The colors are Josh Jensen, Gabriel Kalfa, and John Bergen and Angela Sprecher. Pinups are also included by Jason Copeland with Jensen colors, Paul Gorey, Jason Hood, Liana Congas, Vince Kakua, and Matt Harding. The genre is supernatural, dark comedy, adventure, and what it's about is this one shot has 4 stories in it. The first story is called None the Wiser. It is by written by Chaz Pangburn, drawn by Tony Gregory, and colored by Josh Jensen. One of the ninja nuns has to drive back the god of constipation. Yes, the god of constipation, who has been mistakenly summoned by an ignorant sap conjurer. And the story is really quite funny. It's like this kind of weird Cthulhu thing that she has to figure out how to get him to read the book. And he's like, I didn't read the book. I only learned how to do this one spell. You better figure it out or we're both dead. The next story is Rise of the Discomancer, which is by Bob France, Dan Franco, and Gabriel Kalfa. And the ninja team are sent into battle to go against the DJ Discomancer, who has resurrected Mary Magdalene as a DJ at a raver in a church. The third story, which is called Far Out, has Kevin Keff and Bob France writing with John Bergen artwork, and where the nuns go to a Woodstock-type concert that the headlining band's manager has enslaved another Cthulhu-type entity that gives the audience trippy energies and does other weird things, and they have to try and stop that from going on. And lastly, France and Cuff team up with Angela Sprecher for a quick short story about cosplayers at a convention. It's recommended for ages 16 and up, and I give it a 4 out of 5 stars. Let's take a look at some of the artwork. This is the artwork by Tony Gregory and Josh Jensen. And the sister has sliced the limbs and gotten the conjurer away from the demon. And she's like, what are you doing, you idiot? This is the god of constipation. Do you realize you're not get rich from this fool? Now read the book and get it right while I fight this thing off. And she continues to battle him, and finally he can't figure out the last word, so she just makes something up and sends him off into another dimension and gets rid of him. This is the second story's artwork by Dan Franco and Gabriel Kalfa. They're at their headquarters playing Yahtzee when they're called to go fight the discomancer at the church. Cute little line, holy tap dancing Pope John Paul II. And this is the Concrud story by Angela Sprecher, where 2 of the ninja nuns are going to a convention to get books signed, and the 2 smarmy cosplay or comic book fans comment that her costume as a ninja nun is a lousy cosplay costume, and you're not playing the right character, you're too flat-chested, etc. And she just kicks the crap out of them, and justifiably so. And that is not our last books for the day. Let's go back, shall we? Whoops. Here we go. There's one more book we need to review, and that is that Homesick Pilots. And that is we're going to review votes number 1 and number 2, folks. Number 1 and number 2 are both $3.99. And the publisher's Image Comics, written by Dan Waters with arts by Casper Wingard. The genre is horror action. And what it's about is Amita and her friends are a teenager punk band called Homesick Pilots in California in what appears to be the 1980s. After seeing a punk show by a rival band, Amy says that they need to set up a gig at an old house that has a reputation for being haunted. She visits the house by herself and disappears. Her bandmates come looking for her, as does the rival band, who apparently are planning to rob them, or at least one of the members of the band is going to rob the Homesick Pilots crew. The house comes alive and traps them, and Amy disappears elsewhere as a ghost in an unrelated locale, asking for the return of a horseshoe that belongs to the house. Recommended ages 16 and up, 4.5 stars. The second half, or second issue, Amita does get the horseshoe back to the house at a terrible price. Her friends manage to escape the house while her spirit is off chasing the horseshoe, and she doesn't know that they've been in the house all this time, or that the rival band, Nuclear Bastards, were all killed inside the house. Or at least she doesn't know yet. Meanwhile, her friends are being arrested by the cops. Will they explain what's happened? And even if they do, will anybody actually believe them? Still 4.5 stars. Still pretty consistent book. Here's some of the artwork. This is from the second issue. The one in the purple is Amy or Amita, and she's knocked out a guy while she's trying to get the horseshoe, and the girl's like, I'm not giving you the horseshoe, it's my luck charm. Only it's not really a luck charm, it's that the girl's possessed by the spirit, and the horseshoe will, if she gets the horseshoe, the spirit will have to go back into the horseshoe and be trapped back in the house. When she tries to get the horseshoe, you can see she changes forms and starts fighting her. But eventually, Amy does get the stuff back, get the horseshoe back. And I don't want to say what the price is because I don't want to spoil it for people who check the book out. And that's pretty much our reviews this week. We're going to be back tomorrow for a little bit more reviews. Usually Wednesday, we have what did you get this week? And I review them the following week. But this week, I'm not going to be buying comics because I don't have any new books coming in. So I'll just review some additional titles. And those titles will be Distant Worlds, issues 1 through 4 from Cinebook, Origins number 3 of 6 from Boom Studios, Heavy Metal 302, and possibly some additional books as well. So I'll see you guys again at 5:30 tomorrow afternoon. So what's going on here? Don't know. Oh, there we go. If you want to reach me, you can reach me at Lewis.Brightraven at Facebook.com, at LewisBrightRave2 on Twitter, DeviantArt.com/BrightRaven at DeviantArt, Quoth Raven Lewis Brightraven at YouTube, Quoth Raven LBR72 at gmail.com, and Lewis Brightraven at yahoo.com on Yahoo. Mondays is usually when I do the news and reviews. Wednesdays is what did you get this week. Thursday nights is Roundtable Talk. We haven't finalized our guest yet this week. I'll let you guys know tomorrow. And Friday will be our horror night again. We're going to continue what from last week's show with our co-host John Norris. And the live draw is usually on Saturdays and Sundays, but I'm a little bit behind on that. So see you guys next time.